This is APYouthNet.
Welcome to the APYouthNet Talk Show, where we look at employment issues facing young people in Asia and the Pacific. In 2009, Sri Lanka ended 26 years of conflict. Since then, the country has undergone some significant change and significant development, particularly for its young population under 25 years of age. The government of Sri Lanka, through its Secretariat of Senior Ministers, launched a comprehensive national human resources and employment policy in 2012, and the country is currently drafting a youth policy. To talk about this and much more, I am joined by Ms. Nilanthi Sugathadasa, the Additional Secretary of the Ministry of Youth and Skills Development, from her office in Colombo. Nilanthi, thank you very much for joining us on the show today. Let me start by asking you this. What is the situation for youth, and particularly youth employment, like in Sri Lanka today?
Actually, until 2010 and 2011, the youth employment was about 21. That was youth unemployment was about 21%. Now, of course, it has come down to 19% because now we have started so many programs for empowering youth with employable skills. With that, of course, most of the youth, once they complete their programs at the vocational training centers, most of them are employed now. And on the other hand, the government, of course, have given employment opportunities for the recently passed out graduates. So therefore, most of the youth unemployment problem is being addressed now at present, Matthew.
Now, Nilanthi, at the same time in Sri Lanka, you have a youth policy that is in the making, and you also have a national human resources and employment policy. How do the two come together? How do you get to work, and how are they both going to be synchronized?
Yes, actually the youth policy, of course, still at the draft stage. Now we have opened it up for public hearing. The closing date is today, but we are going to extend it up to 30th because we are getting inquiries from many, not only from youth, all the other stakeholders. Actually, most of the areas where we are proposing in the youth policy are in the National Human Resource and Employment Policy too. So therefore, I guess both can work together because we are catering to the same group of people, young people. So therefore, I guess there will be a coordination mechanism in implementing both the policies, Matthew.
And now, Nilanthi, when we look at the numbers, at the figures that come to us from Sri Lanka, we observe that youth unemployment is actually quite correlated to the issue of educational attainment, but also correlated to the issue of gender. So the figures are that for those young men who have accomplished at least secondary education, youth unemployment is 5.5%, but for those young women who have achieved secondary education, it's 11.7%. It's more than double. Now, for those who have not achieved secondary education, the youth unemployment rates dropped to 1.7% for men and 3.3% for women. What can you tell us about the correlation between gender, educational attainment, and employment in Sri Lanka?
In case of gender, of course, especially our secondary program, tertiary education programs are open for anyone. There is no gender discrimination or biasness. But in certain areas, of course, we see that the female participation is very low, but we encourage them to enter to such programs because recently we have seen that even the girls are entering to the construction field and other areas where male dominated. But when it comes to employment, of course, especially in the government sector, we see that most of the graduates, those who are enrolling to the government sector, are females. And on the other hand, the entrepreneurial, the starting up businesses, also we see that the women participation is increasing now. It is not like that. Previously, of course, it is not like that. But now the women are more encouraged. They are moving towards starting up businesses on their own.
Are you saying, Nilanthi, that there is no more discrimination based on age and on sex in Sri Lanka?
No. There is no discrimination at all.
Let me ask you this. In Sri Lanka, 80% of the population lives in rural areas, And one of the largest employers are really the plantation owners. Those plantations, including rubber, tea, coconut, tobacco, they're all very large employers, but at the same time, it appears that they struggle to hire young workers.
Yeah, that is one reason is poor recognition because that is the work is very hard. Their parents, these parents of this youth, they always encourage them to go for higher education or go to the cities to do some other work rather than working in the estate sector. That is the main reason, Matthew, because they are not paid well also. Although they are paid, but the parents do not allow them to be in the plantation, and they always encourage them to go out.
And I also want to ask you about the impact on employment all over all those internally displaced people. You have about 120,000 internally displaced people in Sri Lanka. You have about 470,000 returnees whose situation is not regarded as very durable. What are the prospects for employment for those people, the internally displaced and the returnees?
Actually, for them, of course, we have special programs. Especially, we have started. We are establishing new vocational training centers those areas, and they are of course very short-term programs targeting on employment, and also we provide. Especially, we are focusing on providing them with entrepreneurial skills. But before, on top of that, we start with provision of leadership and personality development programs for them. After that, only we provide them with the employable skills. And most especially, like if you take courses like hospitality industry, most of the students, especially boys, those who were displaced due to war, they were given a proper training, and most of them are employed in the hotels, and some are gone abroad after training. So their future aspects are, of course, taken care of very well.
So looking forward, Nilanthi, what is your vision of the youth in Sri Lanka? Vision in terms of work, education and life?
What I feel is they should be empowered to have, they should be given a proper in the sense quality education plus targeting on decent and productive employment. They should be given very good, very productive, the very well established and good employable skills.
Nilanthi, I want to thank you so much for joining us on the show today. It's been a pleasure. I want to thank our viewers as well for logging on the APYouthNet.ilo.org. From the ILO's regional office in Asia and the Pacific, I'm Matthew Koniak. Goodbye and thank you.
This has been an AP YouthNet production.